Hello, Sunday school class. I'm Mr. Dikos. Let's start off our lesson with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. So today, we will do the gospel lesson. I'm going to read the gospel lesson, go through it, and kind of give you a little bit of understanding on what it means. This is a parable, which is a story that Jesus gives us that gives us a little lesson in it. So the Lord said this parable: the land of a rich man brought forth plentiful. So what that means is the man had some land and he had a lot of crops, and he thought to himself, what shall I do, for I have nowhere to store my crops? And he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, so you have ample goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, fool, this night your soul is required of you. The things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God. As he said these things, he cried out, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. So what is the lesson Jesus is trying to tell us? Well, the first thing is the man it's obviously a rich man. He has a big farm or land, and he has all the supplies for his worldly needs. He's in great shape. In fact, he has to build bigger barns to hold all the stuff that he has. So he's figuring, I can take it easy now for the rest of my years. I'm going to have enough food, enough drink, and I will be merry. The problem with this is, he says, soul, you have ample goods. The problem is that the soul does not feed on earthly goods. The soul feeds on, as God told him, being rich towards God. And we become rich towards God by being like God. It's really the main goal of an Orthodox Christian. We call it theosis, to be like God, to be godlike. So the way we act, we should try to be as much like God as possible, and that's what feeds our soul and makes our soul rich and prepared, because the things that he has stored up only help him with his physical self, not his soul. And the other lesson here is that you just don't know when your time has come to pass through this life when you die. In fact, that God said to him, this night your soul is required to you. Meaning that your time is up. Now your soul, it's up. Your soul is all that will be left. And what good are these things going to do for you? So we must be ready for that time. We don't know when it is that we leave this life. So we must be ready for that, and we must make our soul rich before we make our physical bodies rich, or our needs here on earth. We need to make, because these things that we store up on earth one day will be gone, and we will be gone to another world, and we can't take that with us. So the first thing we need to do is to make our souls rich, feed our souls, and take care of our souls first, because we just don't know when that day will be. And again, we do that through theosis, to be godlike. So that's the gospel lesson for today. If you have any questions on that, you can feel free to email me. Now for our normal lesson, we are studying the ecumenical Patriarch. So this is the second lesson in that. What we learned before is the ecumenical patriarch is the leader of the Orthodox Church, and he is stationed in Constantinople, also known as modern-day Istanbul. And Constantinople was a city created by the Roman Emperor St. Constantine in 1330. And he built the city of Constantinople, and that is today where the ecumenical patriarch exists. And we were also talking about how there's clergy and there's lay people. Lay people being members of the church who are not clergy, like myself, like you. And to explain how Orthodox lay persons and clergy are all connected, the church uses specific phrases. The ecumenical patriarch is considered the first among equals of all the patriarchs of our one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. So it kind of compares him here to like the team captain. So if you play a sport, you're all the same players on that team, but you also have a team captain. So he's also a player. He also has to perform or shoot the ball or hit the ball or throw the ball, just like all the other players, but he is the captain. So he's kind of first among the players, and just like our ecumenical patriarch, he's first among the patriarchs. So that's the idea with our church leadership. Our bishops are, quote, in it together with us in the struggle to live a Christian life. Jesus Christ, who was born human and God, promised to be with us always. Our church leadership is modeled on his promise. So bishops are the leader of the church communities, from small dioceses to large nations. In the 6th century, the Archbishop of Constantinople began to be called the ecumenical patriarch. So ecumenical describes things that include all of God's inhabited world. So the ecumenical patriarch is the first father of the Orthodox world. All bishops pretty much have the same job description. Some countries and cities are larger and more, maybe considered more important. Some have older communities. Some of the communities were actually founded by the apostles themselves, while others, like ours, was found much later. What we call a see, S-E-E, is the area under a bishop's guidance, and that can be a diocese, a metropolis, an archdiocese, or even the church of a whole country. So we are in the metropolis of Pittsburgh. We are under the bishop or metropolitan Savas, and he has an area that goes from Ohio as far west as parts of Ohio, and as far east as we're actually one of the most eastern churches in his metropolis. So when he comes to visit, bishop or metropolitan Savas, we treat him as our bishop, obviously, and that's why you'll see him sitting in the bishop's chair in front of the altar. So Rome, as the original imperial capital, was the original capital of the Roman Empire, was home to the most important Christian community for several hundred years. And then, as we mentioned before, St. Constantine the Great, when he became emperor, he first of all stopped persecuting Christians, and then he moved the capital of the empire east to Byzantium in 330, the year 330, and then changed the name of the city to Constantinople. In 381 AD, the Second Ecumenical Council ranked the Church of Constantinople and its leader, who was then called an archbishop, second in honor following the Bishop of Rome, which today we now know as the Pope of the Catholic Church. In the year 451, now at this time the churches were all one. The Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church were one and the same. There was no difference between them. In 451, the Fourth Ecumenical Council gave the Patriarch of Constantinople equal status to the bishop or pope in Rome, and expanded the Patriarch's territories to land beyond the empire. In 587 or 588, St. John the Faster was the first Patriarch of Constantinople to use the title Ecumenical Patriarch, meaning that he was really the first among equals, including the Pope or the Bishop of Rome. And after the Great Schism, that's when the Eastern and Western churches, Christian churches, split. And on the west you had the Catholic Church, on the east you had the Orthodox Church. Constantinople became the first in sonority in the Orthodox Christian world. So that's a little bit of history of the Ecumenical Patriarch, the first real 1,000 years of him, and how it worked in relationship to the Pope and the Bishop of Rome. There has been movement in the past years to try to bring those two churches that split, bring them together. There has been joint services between the Ecumenical Patriarch and the Pope, and they continue to move towards that. I don't know if it'll ever happen, that the churches get back together as one, but it was very bitter for many centuries, and at least it looks like over the last few decades that things have gotten, the relationship between the two churches have gotten better. Next, on page 5, which is really page 6, we're going to take a look at the bishop's vestments. Vestments mean his clothing, what he wears. What may appear to be merely expensive, flashy accessories are reminders of the exceptions that bishops carry on, that bishops carry on the leadership of Christ's apostles. And the medallion, if you look at the thing I handed out or sent to you via email on the page, I wish they would have here how they pronounce these. I believe it's Engolpion. It's like a medallion, and in the book it shows a picture of the Virgin Mary with the Christ child. During services, bishops usually wear a pectoral, from the Latin for chest, cross, a medallion that is called a pania or Engolpion, from the Greek for chest. A bishop who leads a church may also wear a second Engolpion with an icon of Christ. Outside of church services, bishops usually wear just the Engolpion. Okay, the sakos. All bishops today wear the sakos. The garment was first worn by the emperor and then later by the Patriarch of Constantinople as well. So this is the, I guess it's a very fancy shirt in essence. The sakos is another symbol of the leadership of the church. Over it, a bishop wears an homophorion around his neck and shoulders, just as Christ, the Good Shepherd, carried the lost sheep. So that's the thing that goes over his shoulders, as if Christ carrying sheep. The staff. The bishop's staff is easily recognized as a shepherd's staff. Look up John chapter 21, verses 15 to 18. What must Peter do to act out his love for Jesus? Another meaning of the bishop's staff is his healing role, just like the medical community's use of the snake twisting around the rod. The staff can be used by the bishop for healing, physically and spiritually. Bishops sometimes will hold candles, one in each hand. The Dikos, the double candle, that symbolizes the two natures of Christ, and the Trikorion, triple candle, symbolizes the Holy Trinity. They remind us of the bishop's role as our first teacher of the faith. The mitre, I'm not sure if that's the right pronunciation, but that's the bishop's crown we see today was not used until the fall of Constantinople. Bishop's crown we see was not used until the fall of Constantinople, which was in 1453. The Ecumenical Patriarch was given the responsibility of leading the Orthodox Christian community within the Ottoman Empire. And he wears this crown as a sign of his leadership of the community. So I am going to stop there. And we'll continue on next time we meet with the Patriarch. And I do have to ask you, it's your homework assignment. And I'm going to ask you to respond or answer these questions for me and respond via email. So the first question is, who is our Patriarch of the Orthodox Church? Second question is, who is our Metropolitan? Meaning Saints Constantine and Helen, Reading, Pennsylvania. And third question is, what year did the Patriarch of Constantinople gain equal status to the Pope or Bishop in Rome? And the final question is, what do the Dikirion and Trikirion symbolize? So email me those answers and you will get credit for attending this class. Thanks, and I'll talk to you next time.